To the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and lots to talk about this morning. Grealish potentially forcing a move to Manchester United. Ed Woodward meeting the Glazers for a budget conversation. I'd love to be a fly on that wall. Also, contract renewals for star players, and obviously the latest roundup of transfer news as well. But exciting news. We don't really have Jadon Sancho to talk about this morning. I've got to be honest. We're going to be talking about Sancho a lot this next few weeks, but it's nice to not have to talk about Sancho. If you want the latest on Sancho, that was on last night's show. I'm sure we'll be mentioning him later on today, but not anything really to add about Sancho at the moment. Talks continue. Let's see what happens. Confidence from all sides that a deal will get done. Although I did see something this morning about alternatives. Chiesa has been mentioned again. But look, Manchester United are in for Jadon Sancho. Anything else is insufficient. So let's start about Jack Grealish then. This is coming from Sky Sports. Jack Grealish seriously considering his future. The issue here is what we spoke about the other day, and it's interesting, isn't it? I predicted this a couple of days ago. If you're Jack Grealish, how annoyed are you going to be when you've given your blood, sweat and tears to Aston Villa, your boyhood club, the club that you support? You keep them up. If you get relegated, you know you're leaving for 50 million. You keep them up and the club says we're not selling you for 80 and prices you out of the market. So, you know, that is an issue for Jack Grealish. How much loyalty does he have to the football club? Probably every last ounce of him. How much loyalty does he have to greedy owners? And this is the thing that people get lost in. And I've had a few Villa fans saying this to me. Grealish won't force his way out of the club. He loves it too much. But there's a big difference between the football club and the owners of the football club. We've seen this at Manchester United. We love Manchester United. Manchester United is, you know, just probably the same as Jack Grealish loves Aston Villa. But that thing is owned by people that maybe you don't love. Maybe you think, you know what, you're not a Villa fan. You're just a businessman who wants to make money out of this football club. Aston Villa Football Club, if it was a person, would probably say, Jack, you've been brilliant for us. Go on and see how high you can go and never forget us, and we'll never forget you. That's probably what Aston Villa would say. The owners of Aston Villa would be like, Jack, we see you as a massive pile of money. We were going to let you go for 50. Thanks for keeping us up. That's made us a load more money for staying in the Premier League. And we're going to rip everybody else off to try and get more out of you. Oh, look, nobody wants you. You've got to stay. And Grealish is left in that situation. So Grealish is considering his future. The feeling is, from what Sky is saying, that there's a lot of interest in Jack Grealish between 50 and 60 million. There's a lot of clubs willing to pay that, and I think United would be one of them. But there's no interest at 70 to 80 million. So Grealish has been priced out of a move, which is exactly what I said would happen when they stayed up. And Grealish may be forced to stay at Aston Villa unless he has a real hard conversation with them and says, look, I would have been going for 50 million quid if we got relegated. I was a big reason we stayed up. You've got to show me some sort of loyalty. Otherwise, I'm staying at a club that just treats me like a commodity. You know, where is the human aspect in this? Aston Villa, let's see what they do. Let's see what happens with that. I mean, I don't think any footballer is really likely to force a move, but I think Grealish is going to have to. You know, Grealish will probably end up having to stay at Aston Villa, and is that what he should be doing with his career? I don't care whether he's a Villa fan, Everton, whoever he plays for. You look at Jack Grealish's career. This is the time to go. I think if he, I don't like to use the word waste, but I'm going to use it. He's wasting his career at Aston Villa because he's better than that. He's better than a relegation battle. He's better than that. Whether he's a top 4 player, whether he's a top half player, he certainly is a top half player. And now's the time for him to go. I think it's just another year, isn't it? You know, I liken it to what happened with Roy Keane way back in the early 90s when, you know, Forest got relegated. He was a young lad. He could have stayed at Forest. They got instantly back promoted. Stuart Pearce did it, as far as I remember. But he went to Manchester United and he did it a lot younger than Jack Grealish did. So he's got a real decision to make, really. Grealish is a 50 to 70 million pound player, says James Jones. Who doesn't have an international cap? No chance. At best, Arsenal Spurs level. Don't buy, total waste of cash, says James Jones. I think for 50 to 60 million, Grealish is worth it. For Manchester United, for that reason, he doesn't walk straight into the team. He goes probably onto the bench. Why would you spend 80 million on him? Apparently Sky is saying that Arsenal are interested in him. Look, this is the old saying again, isn't it? It's like Ugly Dave down the road saying he's interested in marrying Ariana Grande. You know, it's not going to happen. So Arsenal being linked to Jack Grealish. I mean, I'm not saying Grealish wouldn't go to Arsenal. I just don't see how Arsenal would have the money to do that. I just really don't, but maybe I'll get corrected on that. Hi Mark, sorry to take you off topic, but it's my 18th birthday today. Cheers for all the content you put up. Help me fall in love with United even more, says Callum Keary. Happy birthday to Callum, everybody in the live comments, if you could smash that in. And Joshua Bowater says, even at 50 million, I think we can get a better value for money than Grealish from the continent. Only issue is the risk of them not being Premier League proven. Well, I think Joshua's spot on. Just before we move on, I think in relation to Grealish, many of us felt that if Villa got relegated, 50 million quid, yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that deal. Of course we will. Now that they've stayed up and they want 70 million, you know, the gap between Van der Beek at 40 and Grealish at 50, you probably pay it because of the Premier League experience, like you say. You don't wander away from 40 million Van der Beek to 70 million Grealish. You just don't do that. It's the same as, I mean, James Maddison is going to sign a new contract at Leicester. We've known about that for a long time. He is another player that is priced out of a move. I think Maddison would quite like a move to an Arsenal or a Spurs or a Manchester United or a Chelsea, and I think some of those clubs would be interested in James Maddison. But Leicester have got him the price tag is too big, which is why around Christmas time United stopped looking at Maddison and started looking at Grealish, because Maddison was going to cost you 80 million and Grealish was going to cost you 50 million. Well, now Grealish is moving up to the Maddison price, and I think United will do the same. They'll go, look, we're not paying that for those players. It's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. Yeah, there's a risk going abroad, but we should do that, definitely. If you had the choice between signing Jack Grealish or Milinkovic-Savic, given our current needs, who would you take, says Archon UK. Look, I haven't looked at Milinkovic-Savic for a long, long time in the context of becoming a Manchester United player. I mean, he's had a very good season in Serie A, but the interesting thing about Milinkovic-Savic is the evolution of Milinkovic-Savic. A couple of years ago when we were looking at him, he was getting a lot of goals and assists, playing in a more advanced role. He's now playing a more box-to-box, deeper role. So that may suit Manchester United more. But the thing about Milinkovic-Savic is I think he would irritate people in the Premier League, because the Serie A is a little bit slower than the Premier League, and he is a little bit slower than what we would be used to. So United aren't going to go for Milinkovic-Savic anyway. He was a Mourinho target. He's not a Solskjaer target. So I don't know. I don't know out of him on Grealish. But I do think we need to bring somebody in. And I think that Manchester United will be looking at the likes. They've got to be looking at the likes of Van der Beek now. No thanks, rather Van der Beek than Grealish, says Edward Walters. A better price tag and better player, in my opinion. Our transfers need to be Sancho, Van der Beek, and Torres, the centre back. I think that'd be a very good window, Edward Walters. And actually, when you combine those three, you're probably going to spend about 140 million on those three, which isn't bad, really. Thoughts on Diego Rico from Bournemouth as Shaw's backup? Most interceptions and cross blocks in Europe and good key passing stats, available for 10 million, says Duncan. If he's left-footed, why not? We need a left-footed centre-back or a left-footed player desperately. Grealish has shown the resilience and mental toughness needed to succeed at United. He'd most likely be a great buy, just what we need for squad depth, says Aaron Christopher. Look, I'd like Grealish to come to Manchester United, but I think the only way it's going to happen is if he has a strong, hard conversation with the Aston Villa board, which is exactly what we need Ed Woodward to do. Manchester United story last night, I think this is coming from Sky as well, that Manchester United are looking to give Dean Henderson, the goalkeeper, a massive 5-year contract and make him one of the best paid goalkeepers in Europe. That is quite significant when David De Gea is already the best paid goalkeeper in Europe. So we're going to have two of the best paid goalkeepers in Europe at Manchester United. What's the future plan around that then? Because I tell you what, if we're thinking about having them both at the club at the same time, I think that's idiocy. I mean, this is not two forwards that you rotate. This is two goalkeepers. You don't rotate goalkeepers. It's never been done. I can't think there probably is an example of it. But if you want a goalkeeper to be good, you play your goalkeeper every week. You don't rotate them week in, week out, because it gets in their head. As we've seen this season with De Gea, and we've seen it with Henderson at times. Goalkeeping is a mental battle. Of course it is. Concentration is absolutely key. You might have a game where you're doing absolutely nothing, and then you have a worldie to save in the last minute. You've dominated an opposition. You've only managed to score one goal. They throw the bus at you. They throw the sink at you in the last minute. They hit a worldie in the top corner. You've had nothing to do all game. You've got to be ready. So how is a goalkeeper going to deal with a mental battle of knowing that any little mistake, the guy on the bench is going to play next week, or he might play next week anyway, even if you do have a great game? You can't have two great goalkeepers. So I don't know what United's plan is with Henderson. They certainly can't sell De Gea at the moment, so I don't know what that plan is. But that's the story from Sky. But apparently this is going to be discussed between Woodward and the Glazers over the next few days because they're going to have a budget meeting. Now, that budget meeting, to me, you would wonder why we haven't had that budget meeting before now, because the transfer window's open. So why are we having a chat about budgets with the Glazers now? This should have been done before. The only thing I can think this is about is because there's a change in the budget because we've got Champions League football. But again, if there is any truth in this and there is a big if attached, why are Manchester United chatting about budgets when the transfer window is open? This should have been done last month, or 2 months ago. There should have been a chat 2 months ago to say, or a month ago, or even 3 weeks ago, or even 2 weeks ago. Before the transfer window, sit down and go, look, if we get Champions League, you've got this. If we get Europa League, you've got this. Why would we sit down to do that meeting now? And they've not even had it yet, apparently, according to Sky. In the entire transfer window, we will buy Sancho, and for entire new Premier League season, we'll be fighting for fourth, says Cheltani. Hope I'm proven wrong in a positive way. Me too. I hope Grealish is going to force the move, and Villa are going to have to sell him for 50 million. Can't see any club paying over 50 for him, says one day you may. Yankee WZ says, isn't it hypocrisy from United to cry about overcharging when we priced Pogba out of a move and refused to sell the Spanish De Gea to Real Madrid like Sancho? And Arcon UK said, would love to see Man United being brave and signing a player like Sandro Tonali, young and has all the attributes to become world class. Mate, you're speaking to the converted there. I would love to see Tonali at Manchester United. I think he's got all the attributes to be fantastic. Be hard to get him out of Italy, that's the first thing I would say. But even if you could get him out of Italy, it's not the sort of signing Manchester United want to do. They don't want to do that sort of player. If he was playing at West Ham, they'd do it, but they won't do it from abroad with these players that have. They just don't seem to want to do that. I think if we're gonna, James Lewis says, do you think Chong loan could be part of a Grealish deal? Says James Lewis. I think that'd be a very good deal. I don't know whether it would happen. And Victor Junior Nash says, it's my 20th birthday today. I also wanted to say that you are the best channel and we are grateful to have you all the way from South Africa. Happy birthday to Victor. If people could type that in the live comments as well. I hope you have a good day, pal, and thanks for your message. But look, on Tonali, I read quite an interesting article on the Manchester Evening News. I'll give him a shout out for it. What was his name? Dominic Booth was writing about why United shouldn't go for Ndidi or Declan Rice. And basically what he was saying is, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think it probably will be the reason we don't go for Ndidi or Rice this summer, is that United need a midfielder, more of an attacking midfielder than a centre defensive midfielder. They're going to get Sancho and they need a centre-back. They're the three priority positions. So have they got the funds to even go for a centre defensive midfielder? And then what he was also saying is that Matic, Fred and McTominay throughout this season have actually had periods where they've done quite well. And surely next season should be about finding out whether any of those are good enough to be a CDM for United. So I don't agree with that. If I was in charge, I've always prioritised the centre defensive midfield position. But I think if you're looking for justification as to why United won't go for an Ndidi or a Declan Rice or a CDM in general, I think that the way that article was put together is actually probably accurate, because it's probably the mentality United have got. They're going to look at three different positions other than a CDM, and they're going to stick with Fred, McTominay and Matic, which they definitely are. Those three players are at United next season. So if you bring a CDM in as well, next season our CDM options are going to be McTominay, Matic and Fred. Whether you think that's good enough or not, it will be. We won't buy a CDM, even though I think we all know we need one. I think that we saw it at the end of the season, to be fair. Matic, when he's not playing, he plays McTominay. Now, McTominay's got to grow into a centre defensive midfielder or we're fooked, basically. That's the plan. McTominay is going to be the CDM. He's got Carrick in his ear. He's got Matic as his mentor. That's the plan. You can see it coming a mile off. Whether it's going to work or not, I'm nearly 100% sure Ollie said Fernando's transfer fee was out of the summer budget. If through, we probably only get Sancho. Thoughts, says Patrick Whitten. Yeah, I do. I think I remember that as well. I think that it was said that the Bruno fee was out of the summer transfer budget. Yeah. So yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one. Yeah. How do you feel about Sarr instead of Sancho? Says Farudi. I feel sick, to be honest with you. Anybody other than Jadon Sancho makes me feel sick, because it's not just about the player, it's about the club's appetite for success. Jadon Sancho is more than Jadon Sancho. The signing of Jadon Sancho is more than Jadon Sancho, the player, because it's symbolic that Manchester United actually want to be one of the best teams in the world. And if you don't get Sancho because he's too expensive and you buy Sarr, then you're basically saying that, yeah, we're not that club then. We're not that club that wants to be the best in the world. So to me, it's symbolic. That's why for me, the drop-off from not getting Jadon Sancho is like jumping off a cliff into a deep, deep ocean that takes you a long time to surface from, because we're going to plunge down from our expectations. United have got to sign Sancho. I think they know they've got to sign Sancho. They know Manchester United are very aware of, after the down days of January where they were losing the faith of the fans and all the things that were going on, some of the unacceptable things that were going on, they've changed a lot. We actually have appointed a PR spin. Neil Ashton is involved, obviously, and and honestly, I think a lot of us look at things and go, that's PR spin, whatever. But even if it is PR spin, it doesn't mean that it's not positive PR spin at times. So United are very aware that there is a momentum of positivity around the club, and they've played a part in that. And I think they know that Jadon Sancho, if they don't get him, is going to, it's going to end up in a lot of negativity, because it's not the message that the fans want. The message want Jadon Sancho to come in to show that the club itself is actually ambitious. And if they don't do that, then the PR stops spinning, doesn't it? Chaitanya says that, thanks for reading my chat in consecutive live sessions. I know my name is tongue twister even for my in-laws who are Indian. Thanks for the super chat, pal. And one day you may says, we won't be challenging for the top spots in the league and Champions League with Matic as our main man. He's like a wood stick and doesn't offer much. Ooh, is it Rookie? Are you Ricky's evil twin brother? Anyway, we've got more to talk about. Thomas Partey, Independent, Arsenal. They're talking about a second bid from Arsenal. I've got to be honest, Arsenal seem to be very, very in for Thomas Partey, and it worries me a little bit, because I don't know why Manchester United aren't in for Thomas Partey, because he can play box to box and he can play centre defensive midfielder, and he is available for £43 million. That's his release clause, which is not a lot of money. And I just think he tore it up against Liverpool. He's proven that he can do it in the Premier League, really, for me. And at 26, 27, he's probably the right sort of age to bring a bit of experience in. If Arsenal manage to get that deal on Amazon vouchers again or something like that, because they clearly haven't got the 43 million. They're trying to construct some sort of deal, aren't they? I just don't know why United aren't looking at doing that deal. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think we're going to go for a centre defensive midfielder, but I think Thomas Partey would bring a lot to Manchester United's midfield. I wouldn't say you'd need to get Partey and Van der Beek or Partey and Grealish, but I think he would bring something to Manchester United that, look, he's probably going to end up bringing to Arsenal unless he stays at Atletico Madrid. Does it have to be Grealish that we get, says Eddie J? No. I think, as we were talking about yesterday with the lad Torres at Villarreal, the centre-back, not a lot of people will know about him. You look at him, and you go, that's the sort of scouting I want. There's probably 20 midfielders out there that can do the job Grealish would do that some of you've never even heard of. But that's what scouting's all about. I mean, look, again, I was talking about this last night a little bit. There was an article yesterday where somebody involved in the scouting network at United was pleading with United to sign Alphonso Davies. They weren't saying take a look at this guy. They were saying sign this guy. And United decided not to do it. Now, there's loads of examples of that. But look, what I'm trying to say is United have got a good scouting network. It's about trusting it. And I don't think United trust their European scouting network. And I don't know why that is, because I think it's a good scouting network, but it doesn't get listened to. And we hear this time and time again, because we seem to be focused on, look, if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you can't know everything about every league, but you will know everything about the Premier League, because that's where you manage and that's where you watch games. So I think what happens is United will go, we found this player in, Italy who is going to be the next Kante, is, 15 million quid. And maybe United look at it and go, well, I don't know anything about him. Oh, I don't know about that. Let's get Declan Rice for 65 million because I've seen him play a few times. That's the trust. I mean, look at what Man City have done with Ferran Torres. £23 million. I mean, I said it last night. I don't know whether that's a release clause, but Ferran Torres is a player that United was sort of looked as an alternative to Jadon Sancho. He's no mug. He's no gamble. And they're getting him for like 8 million quid more than Dan James. Ferran Torres at Valencia is going to be a fantastic player. And Man City have gone and got him for 23 million. And it makes you wonder, like, if we'd gone in for him, we probably would have been priced out of the market at 50 million. Man City have got more money than us. Why do we get ripped off? People see Manchester United coming, and they do see us coming. They go, oh, add 20 million on. And, we either walk away or we pay it. Why do we get ripped off and Man City don't? When everybody knows Man City have got oil piped into Manchester. They've got loads of money. But Man City do great deals. I've got to applaud Man City. They do great deals. They don't really spend over 60 million on a player. But United, we get absolutely bent over every time. I don't get that. I really don't. But there you go. Pink Panther, welcome, latest member of the United Stand Members Club. What else have we got to talk about? We've spoken about the CDM. I've seen pictures of Lindelof in France having a nice meal and resting. That's good. United players, I don't know how long they've got off, but they're off this week having a rest, a well-earned rest, which is great to see. Grealish is the best option. He can also do a great job on the right wing in case Rashford gets injured, says one day you may. I just saw a stupid comment that I'm not going to read out. Also, they're talking about James Garner going on loan. I know we spoke about Tahith Chong there potentially going on loan, but I think it's very important that we do get some of these young players out, and James Garner is a player that definitely looks like he will be going out on loan. Torres has 1 year left on his contract. That's why he's cheap, says Severia Hans. Yeah, Ferran Torres we're talking about there. But look, again, it's still a very good deal for Man City, isn't it? You know, if Man City have got £100 million to spend, they've only spent 23 on a very good right winger. They've still got £75 million. I mean, and whoever they buy, I guarantee they'll get good deals. If you could take a player from each team relegated this season, who would you take, says Alfie Edwards? None. I saw an article on this yesterday and it made me want to throw up. The top 5 players United could get from relegated teams. And I thought, you know, straight away I can see the problem with this article. Relegated teams. Very rare a relegated player is worth going for. There are exceptions. Roy Keane was the prime example. I think Grealish is a good example at the right price. But you shouldn't be looking at relegated clubs for players. Like, that's the sort of thing Everton do. It's the sort of thing Southampton do. We're Manchester United. Just because they're cheap, you know, why are we shopping at Poundland when we should be shopping at Waitrose? Like, Manchester United are a long way behind Liverpool and Man City. Do you think shopping around relegation, bargain basement places is going to give us the quality to catch those clubs? We need quality. Now, if there's a quality player that's been relegated, fine. But Jack Grealish didn't get relegated, which is why we're going to have to pay premium money for him. In the relegating clubs, there's a couple of players I would say are worth a risk, but they're not quality players I'd be going, yeah, let's go and get 4 or 5 of them. Look, the Aki one is interesting for me. It's a no, but if we get him, you know, fine. There's a couple of fullbacks at Norwich that I think look very good. But there's not really any players that jump out at me that I go, oh yeah, let's go and get them. You know, I like Sarr at Watford, but at the end of the day, still got relegated. Wouldn't Declan Rice fit in well with the current ethos at United, or would you view him as a slightly better Scott McTominay, says Archon UK? I mean, it's hard to say with Declan Rice. I've changed my opinion on Declan Rice. It's one of the few things I think Saeed's ever been right about. I mean, I was watching Declan Rice around February, and I'd seen him a few times this season, and I was like, I think he's massively overrated because he's English. And then I watched him a few times after lockdown, and I was like, he seems to have matured, you know, over lockdown. You know, he's changed his game a little bit. He's more consistent. If he continues to grow like that at the age that he is, playing as a central defensive midfielder, I think he has got the potential to be really, really good. So I would consider him, but you never know whether he's just gone through a sort of Messi Lingard period. I mean, it's almost in the dictionary now, isn't he? He's done a Messi Lingard, which is basically play world class for 2 months and then never do it again. So I think Declan Rice would be a bit of a risk for United this summer, which they won't take anyway. But, you know, if he has another good season, I'm sure he'll be getting a move. What about Alexander Sorloth as a different kind of striker, says Bjorn. I don't think we'll be looking at a striker, Bjorn. And I remember Sir Alex Ferguson watching games abroad to scout and see if he fits into the team, says Nicholas. Yeah, I do. He used to be all over everywhere, Sir Alex. He lived, breathed and bled Manchester United, didn't he? And he was always very, very hands-on. Lingard or Pereira plus cash for Grealish, says Nashwin. I mean, look, I think with Aston Villa and Grealish, there are deals that could be done with players. And look, I do my Aston Villa career mode on That's Football, bit of a shout out there. But I've brought in Twansebi, I've brought in Greenwood. You know, Manchester United, if you are a lower Premier League club, have got a lot of players that you would go, I wouldn't mind him, I wouldn't mind him, I wouldn't mind him. The problem you've got is, do Villa think that they can get anything out of a Pereira or Lingard? And I think that they might. But can you get Pereira or Lingard to go to Manchester to Aston Villa? You might struggle with that. And also, can you get them to go there and take a pay cut? Because Aston Villa probably can't afford to pay 60, 70, 80 grand a week to Jesse Lingard or Andreas Pereira, and that becomes the problem. It's the Alexis Sanchez rule, isn't it? Look, there is definitely a desire from Inter Milan, Manchester United and Alexis Sanchez for Alexis Sanchez to go on a permanent deal to Inter Milan. And this is music to my ears. It's classic Queen. But the problem is United are going to have to take a cut here. They're going to have to take a loss because he's on 350k a week. Some say 400k a week. Inter Milan aren't going to pay him that and then give us 15, 20 million. So we've got to take a loss, but ultimately it's worth the loss as far as I'm concerned, and we've got to get that deal done. Hey Mark, what do you think about an article saying we sign Sancho and let Tahith Chong go on loan at Dortmund? Says Alex Raffini. I'd love that. I would love that. I would love Dortmund to look at some of our players and say we'd like to take those in a deal for Sancho. Delot's the one for me that I think would be very attractive to Dortmund, because I know they've brought Meunier in, but Delot is a young player that they can, look at in a couple of ways. One, he's going to be there for a long time, or two, he comes in and they then sell him on when he becomes, top class in a couple of years. Which, look, Delot, I've got to say this about Delot, and I know I've said it before, but I've got to say it again. When we bought Delot under Mourinho, he was 20 million quid, he was a teenager, and Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG wanted him, and we won the race. They still want him. He's been scouted. You don't. What these top clubs do is they don't scout a young player that they want and then they wipe it off their hard drive. They don't do that. They'll keep tabs on that player. So Delot is a player that has the potential to be a very good right back. He's just not seen as a potential right back for Manchester United. Ollie doesn't rate him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought Fosu Mensah in from nowhere to play at left back when he could have played Delot. So Delot is a player that's an asset for United this summer, whether it's 20 million in the pocket or it's part of a deal. So I think Delot would suit Dortmund. Whether they'd want Tahith Chong or not, I don't know whether they'd value Tahith Chong enough. I mean, Tahith Chong's got a very important season ahead. I think Tahith Chong had a bad season last year for United. When he played, he just didn't show enough of his qualities, and he's got a big year ahead. Do you think Arsenal was serious about Grealish? I imagine if no one else came in for him, he could go there. Structured payments like Pepe deals, says Franklin. The trouble, I don't see how Arsenal can afford Grealish, because if Grealish goes to Arsenal for 50 million on a structured deal, then why wouldn't United do that deal? I think the problem with Grealish at the moment, going back to what we're talking about at the start, is that he's 80 million quid or 70 million quid. That's the price at the moment. They've priced everybody out of the market. And Jack Grealish needs to have a word with Villa. And if he wants to stay, fine. No one's going to buy you, Jack. But if you want to go and say to Villa, I've kept you up. If I hadn't kept you up, I would have been going for 50. I've kept you up and now you want 70. Have a word. Then maybe his price will come down. Just move all second team to Dortmund to flourish, says Desmond. And Alexis Sanchez is a quality player. He's just been managed by Mourinho and a manager who believed in Lingard, says Asp456. Mate, I've watched Alexis Sanchez. I've been at Old Trafford watching Alexis Sanchez. He's not a quality player anymore. We bought a dud. We bought a player that's good in Serie A, but he ain't a Premier League player anymore. He's lost at least a yard of pace. That's his problem. He sees the run. We make the pass, but he can't get there anymore. He's not a Premier League player. It's too quick for him. So trust me on this. He's never going to play in the Premier League again, and he's never going to shine in the Premier League again. But in the Serie A, which is slower, it is slower. It's always been slower. It's a slower league. Then that loss of a yard of pace isn't as important. Aston Villa are bigger than Arsenal. Why would he go there? Says Sashin. And United should use Gomez as a swap deal. Says Danny Plays. Danny, I don't. Shall I tell Danny or anybody else? Angel Gomez is left. He's left. He's not a Manchester United player anymore. Nice to hear you. Relax, Mark. Much easier on the ear, says Owen. I've been relaxed for a long time. And he's blessed. He bloody missed it. What a prat, says Keith Adams. What about Gabriel? No, don't even know what you're talking about there. And House of Drama says Alexis Sanchez is just too old now. He can't compete in the Premier League. There we go. Liverpool champion says Sanchez is and always was a better player than any of United attacking players. Yeah. You just keep enjoying your title, mate. But he was a big name, just like you want. You scoff at value players from lower teams, right? Says Rebuild FC. Don't know what player you're talking about. It helps if you give a bit of context to your comments. And what do you think about Boateng back to the Premier League? Says Alex Hill. Not aware of that. We need Matic replacement, says Amit. We do. I think we do. But I don't think we'll get one. And Grealish is the one we should go for, I believe. And Sancho, then Aki, says Caleb. Be interesting if we got Sancho, Aki and Grealish, wouldn't it? Because it would be, again, very indicative of this perception that Manchester United are Brexit FC. Because I know Aki's Dutch, but he's basically been brought up as a Premier League player. Sancho's playing in Dortmund, but he's English. And obviously Grealish, English and a Premier League player. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if Ollie's top 3 targets were those 3 players. But all I will say about Grealish is it's common knowledge that Solskjaer wants him and that Grealish is his number 1 target. So whether you want Van der Beek or you want somebody else, have no doubts about it. Grealish is Solskjaer's number 1 target. I just think you don't always get your number 1. And on this, I think United are right to not go for their number 1 because he's overpriced at 70 million quid. So go for Van der Beek. And I don't think there's a big difference between the two. So that's what I think Manchester United should be looking to do. We need to look for defenders more than anything, to be honest, says Tyler. No, I think we need Sancho more. I think Sancho is the priority, 100%. And then beyond that, you know, you look at something else. But a centre-back is important. But the thing about the centre-back is that's very, very important, is that they've got to have pace. And I know people will say, oh, FIFA 20, pace merchant. This has got nothing to do with gaming. This has got nothing to do with pace merchants. This has got to do with analysing Manchester United tactically and saying that in the centre of defence we lack pace. If you look at some of the scenarios we've gotten into trouble in this season, if you look at how deep our defensive line has been in a lot of games this season, especially against the better teams, if you look at how many times we've played 2 holding midfielders this season, we're constantly protecting against the lack of pace. I'm going to do a video on this actually, but we're constantly protecting against the lack of pace in our centre-backs, whether it's by playing a deeper line, whether it's by playing 2 centre defensive midfielders, or whether it's been actually being exploited by that. I mean, you think about the Bergwijn goal against Spurs, that's just lack of pace. He just cuts straight through the middle. But there's lots of examples of that. Crystal Palace did it to us at Old Trafford at the start of the season. We need a pacey centre-back. It's not about, oh, we need pace everywhere. We need a pacey centre-back. And if we are going to buy a centre-back, they've got to have some pace. Otherwise, you're just going to have more of the same problems. And it's very important that United play a higher line next season. We can't keep playing a deep line because it's further to the other opposition goal to build up from. You can't keep playing 2 holding midfielders because it stops your creativity in the final third. So we need to buy a centre-back that has some pace. And that's the number 1 thing. They've got to be quick. Everything else important, yes, but it's got to be somebody who's quick. Van der Beek runs with the ball well, says NJ, and CDM position is most important position currently in our team, says Jose Mourinho. And Dylan McReal says, Mark, I'd really love United to show interest in Ndidi. He's someone I can see can take our game to the next level. Look, I would welcome Ndidi. I really would. I just don't think United have got the priority or the budget to go and get him at the moment. That's my honest feeling about that. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. Got a cracking video coming out this afternoon. If you want to be part of that, just go to theunitedstand.com, find the season player ratings and vote for yours. Season player rating show as voted by over 15,000 of you so far. We'll be going through that with our player season ratings at lunchtime today, so watch out for that. 8 o'clock show tonight as well. Obviously any news will go live on transfers. But that's your morning Man United transfer news and I will speak to you all in a bit. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you are new. I'll speak to you later.